Did you know that 2025 is a pivotal year for Ascension? Not just in spiritual awareness, but in the body, through the lived experience. Finally, we're at the point in time that many Native traditions have prophesied for a very long time. But what does all that mean? And why is it only happening now? In this episode, we discuss what Ascension is, why it's truly possible now for the first time for so many more people, and how you can start to experience it yourself. If you like this episode, please help us out by hitting the like button and leaving a comment. It helps us get our content to more people like you. My name is Karen Cheong, and today in Mastering Your World Through Frequencies, we're talking about why 2025 is such a pivotal year for Ascension.
I'm really excited about this year. And I know you and I have talked, and in December we talked about how we could feel this kind of waves of excitement coming in, and we didn't know what was coming, but we were just feeling excited.
Yeah.
Kind of crazy, right?
Yeah.
And then we switched into the new year, and all these little things started coming in for us that we found out about that we had never found out about until that point.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how much of that we want to talk about in this episode, but I think it's become clear to us that this year's pivotal.
Yeah.
And as you said, it's about having ascension take place within the body this year, very specifically.
Yeah.
So can we unpack that a little bit?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think the first thing to just say is that, a lot of people will think of ascension or spiritual awakening or whatever you want to call it. To me, ascension's a little bit different. A spiritual awakening is when you become aware viscerally that you're infinite, indestructible consciousness, intrinsically part of the one, okay, co-creator of everything. That's, to me, something that you realize. It's not a mental construct. It's a knowingness that's really deep. To me, ascension has to do, because I think these terms are used interchangeably a lot and it can become really confusing.
Yes.
So to me, ascension means to ascend in your consciousness level, okay, just to unpack that a little bit. So it means that you've gone from a certain consciousness level that we're occupying currently, which has a lot of fear and oppression and greed and scarcity and all that stuff.
And
which
control,
is, and
right?
control and subjugation, a whole bunch of different things, which are very dense and heavy and terrible in the human experience, and moving up to a higher consciousness level where you start to, because of your vibrational rate, know more viscerally that you're part of the one. And also, as a result, those lower level, dense distortion patterns don't exist in that higher dimensional order that you now occupy. It's like there's like two ships passing in the night. They can't exist in the same space.
Yeah.
Right? And so on one consciousness level, which is lower and denser, these things exist. At the higher dimensional order, they simply don't. And the thing is, I just want to preface this by saying, a lot of people will talk about this ascension as if they're trying to get away from the old one because this is what's going to save them.
Yeah.
It's like this pie in the sky. Finally, when I reach this consciousness level, everything's unicorns and rainbows. And I don't have any challenge. And everything's amazing.
Yeah.
They think the same thing about spiritual awakening, actually, often. But it's not that. It's just a higher dimensional order, meaning a higher consciousness level. What you're aware of changes. Your perspective changes. It gets bigger and more broad because you're more aware as a result of that vibrational rate that you are part of the one, not more part of the one. You are part of the one.
Yeah.
You just realize it more is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So meaning what I do to you, what I do to the earth, what I do in my choices very much impacts me, even though I think it's just gone away now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've been doing this work for a few years now, and we talk a lot about, increasing your frequency resonance and making your vibration level stable at that resonance. And that we know there's a time coming when there will be this new consciousness. And I've been impatiently waiting. And now it seems like it's this year from what we understand. So what changed?
Well, it's not only about us rising in our frequency resonance, which is, of course, important to be ready to take advantage the most of this time. So it's an important thing that you're doing, because not only are you becoming more ready, but when you become more ready in terms of raising your vibration, it seeds the possibility for others to be able to do the same. We also happen to be at a very specific point in time. Now, I just want to say in advance that I am not an astrologer. That's not my gift. It's not what I do. But a friend of mine sent me this little YouTube video just a few days ago of a very famous astrologer by the name of Pam Gregory, who is being interviewed. Now, I don't know Pam personally, but I have watched her on occasion, and she always seems to me like someone who is very passionate about what she does. She's very curious. She's very smart. She knows a lot. And so check her out if you want to. But what Pam was saying was fascinating, because she was talking about something that I've known for a while from different teachers. So she's not the only one saying this.
Yes.
She was talking about we're at the this shift in the precession of the equinox, right? The end of this 12,000-year cycle where we move from, the masculine into the feminine, that the Mayans were talking about, everyone talked about 2012, where there's to be this big decision point. Well, that happened, and we decided that we were going to proceed in terms of our ascension. So she was talking about that. She was saying also that this year, what's fascinating is it's the end of the 12,000-year Kali Yuga cycle. And she said that that is an age of darkness, and that ends in March of 2025, where we now shift into the light, which is kind of fascinating because we happen to be giving our San Miguel de Allende retreat, which is all about discovering the seat of majesty. And what I mean by that is internal majesty, right as we enter March. So it's kind of this fascinating timing, for that. In addition, she was talking about, from an astrology perspective, that all the outer planets go from being water and earth signs, I think is what she said, which are heavy and dense and have to do with emotion and the human experience, and flipping into air and fire signs, which are much faster and higher vibrating.
That's right.
So that's all happening now in this year. So we're being supported not only because of our own frequency resonance, but these waves of highly vibrating frequencies that I've been talking about now for a couple of years that have been coming in to buoy our frequency resonance. It's all culminating right now with these periods in time that have been talked about for centuries.
Eons.
Yeah, I feel, and so many native traditions have been talking about this time. It's not like it's a newsflash for them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the Hopi have it written in the rocks, about this time coming. And there's so many prophecies about this time.
Yeah.
And, we have to be, of course, mindful in terms of what we believe the prophecy to mean and our own power with regards to them, etc. So I'm not saying give up your power to the prophecy, but it's just interesting to me that it happens to all overlap, and the time is this year. Do you want to actually begin to clear the distortion patterns we're talking about? Then click on the link in the description below to get the free Group Frequency Calibration meditation specific to this episode. That's where the change actually happens.
2025 has been mentioned a lot.
Yes.
A lot of these prophecies.
Yeah.
Even the Mayan one, where everybody thought the end of the world was coming in 2012.
Yeah.
And it was explained by some Mayan elders, no, that calendar finished.
Yes.
That's all.
Yes.
And there is a period of transition.
Yes.
But they all have been saying that 2025 was the beginning of the new cycles.
Yes.
Not one, but cycles.
Yeah.
And when you hear Pam Gregory's little YouTube clip, she talks about the same thing. The cycles are coming to an end in March.
Yes.
And the new ones
They're beginning. Yes. And the thing is, it's funny because 2012, from what I understand of it, was a decision point in terms of humanity. Like, we had to choose, do we want to continue and ascend, or are we, kind of doomed, I suppose. And then we chose to continue. So now it takes a little bit of time for the new to begin, it isn't instant on. This is a 12,000-year cycle. It's not it just happens in a heartbeat. But anyway, so that's what's happening now. And in terms of, I don't know if you asked the question, why is it so important now?
Well, why is it happening now?
No.
Because, I'm also curious about, it is a new cycle, and we're doing the SMA retreat right at that cycle tip, which is amazing. So we'll have all these people in their seat of majesty, hopefully, moving in and taking that propagation of that energy with them. But I also imagine there has to be some changes within the body
Yes.
for this to happen.
Exactly.
Right?
So all the work that we have been doing with frequency work is not just about raising your resonance, as we've been talking about. It is that. Yeah. Obviously, you have to be aware of your distortion patterns, release them, and as a result, your resonance rises. This is what we've been saying for years and years and years and years. The other part about frequency work that we've also talked about is that the vibrational level in your body, your physical body, also must increase because you take your body with you.
Yes.
You know? So this physical thing that you embody has to rise in its resonance. And there's some key things that have to happen in order for that to take place. So you've been preparing, right? So it's not, please no, I'm not saying like all the stuff that you've been doing in the past is not relevant. It has been. There's nothing wasted in your spiritual journey. Everything that you have experienced, what you've learned, what you've chosen, all the stuff that has happened for you is not a waste. It's all specifically here to help you in this moment in time.
Yeah.
So the other thing about frequency work that I just want to mention before I get to the body is that it's all about centering in the body, right? It's not about being out there in the ether and just having all these experiences and negating the human. You're meant to have a human embodied experience. It is what you chose. So I'm saying that because of what I'm going to say next. So the human experience is about to change because the way our DNA is structured is about to change so that we can experience a higher level order of consciousness.
You're just going to drop it there? Nice one.
Well, I was pausing for a question.
There's so many. Okay, wait. First of all, is how do you know that it's going to change? And what in the body and the DNA is going to change? I think that's really important for us to know because you've said to reinforce the body as we do this work, reinforce the body. So now I'm already thinking, oh, wow, if these changes are going to happen, I need to learn how to reinforce the body for these changes.
Exactly, to make the vibrational level rise in the body. So about, I don't know when it was, probably, it's got to be 12 years ago now. It's kind of interesting. It's about 12. But about 12 years ago now, I started to be aware in my meditation that something was wrong in our DNA, but I didn't know what that meant. Because, I was very young in my spiritual journey. I didn't really know. And then as my spiritual journey continued, that messaging was confirmed without me really asking for it because I didn't know what it meant. I'm like, okay, I don't know what the hell that means. That seems great. Then the first time that I heard that confirmed was through Junfolo Melchizedek. Where he talked about the strands of our DNA and how that, they had been messed with many thousands of years ago as a way to subjugate humanity. And I didn't really know what he was talking about, but when he said it, I was like, I have known that.
Right?
I have known that.
And I'm sure people watching this, there'll be people watching this who'll feel it.
Yeah, exactly.
This is truth.
True, yeah.
This is a truth.
Yeah, like I am being limited in a way that's deep in my body that I don't understand why.
Yeah.
And I that shouldn't be there, but I don't know why it's there, and I don't know what it is, and I don't know really what it means. But he was the first one who said it that I was just like, oh my God. That was just a feeling, and I thought it was just nuts, so I never said it to anybody because I was like, okay, this is a little loopy thing to say. I mean, obviously, like we have 2 strands of DNA, blah, 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 right? So then a couple of years later, I happened to be in New Zealand on a spiritual, like a sacred journey, let's just call it that for a lack of a better word. And some very powerful people who I met who, let's call them shaman, but there were so much more, who were very aware of their star lineage. So meaning aware of where they came from in the stars, were more aware of the consciousness level that they came from. They said, you realize that the DNA, our DNA as humans, has been altered, not consensually. And when they said it, I think I wept because I was just like, I have known this and I have known it and I have known it. And so fast forward to now. So I'm not the only one who holds this idea. And I know this sounds kind of conspiracy theory-esque, but I wasn't reading conspiracy theory back.
They didn't exist back then.
Yeah.
Really?
This is a long time ago before the internet really took off. And so I didn't know anything about it. It was just this feeling that I had. And so anyway, from what I understand, okay, so I'm going to back up before I even talk about the DNA. So things on a higher dimensional order in the universe are on a base of 12, meaning the ratio is to 12. And I know as humans, we like to try and divide everything by 10. but we're kind of missing the point because really everything is on a base of 12.
Yeah.
Okay. So really what it is I have known and felt for a long time that even though it appears that we have, 2 strands of DNA, that really we have 12. And I don't know why I keep insisting that there's 12, but I felt like there was 12. It appears that apparently with the alteration of the DNA that happened many thousands of years ago, there were 24 chromosomes originally, and chromosome 2 and 7 were fused together.
Yep.
So now all of a sudden, we have 23 instead of 24.
Yeah.
Is 23 divisible by 12? No, it's not at all. And the crazy thing is when it becomes divisible by 12, it changes the nature of who you are because it's in your embodiment. So by changing the DNA, so it's 23 chromosomes instead of 24, it limits you really to the human experience. It really limits your access. I'm not saying you can't access it, but it limits your ability to access yourself at higher dimensional orders of consciousness. Because again, you don't have access to the 12, which is the base number of, or the base ratio, I should say, of all things in the universe. So part of what we're doing this year has to do with repairing the DNA so that we now become base 12, right? So instead of 23, we're now all of a sudden 24, 12 strands of DNA. See, we're returning to 12.
Yeah.
So the return to 12 is what allows us to access higher dimensional orders of consciousness, which is actually our birthright. It's what we came here with before it was altered against our will.
So if that's the true case, then how are you able to do what you're doing and other people that are doing the work? How are they able to do it then if they don't have that last set of the chromosomes active?
Yeah. So it doesn't mean that we can't work at the quantum level. It's just very limited. So this is why I'm personally really excited. I'm like, well, if we can do this limited, what the hell happens when you unlimit us?
Yeah.
Right? Like when we really go limitless in the body, like what happens then when the shackles drop?
Yeah.
My belief, and I don't know because it hasn't happened yet.
It hasn't happened yet.
My belief is it's now not just like someone like me, like more and more of us get to have that experience of those higher dimensional orders, and we don't have to struggle so hard in order to get there, and we don't spin so much in sort of like echoes of the repeat of some of these patterns that we struggle with. Like some of us, for example, even though we're highly resonating, will struggle with scarcity in some way, right? Yeah. So whether it's in your health or in your body, meaning how you feel in your body, or even in like your experience of abundance in some way, meaning material abundance, whatever the thing is, there's like echoes of it. Even if it's like very much less than when you began, it's still there. Like maybe you still feel scarcity of time, for example. Now, I'm not suggesting that when you get to a higher level of consciousness that it's, like I said, all bliss, unicorns, and rainbows, because it's not about that. You still will have challenge. But my feeling is that we're locked into the illusion in a way that is really keeping us from being much, much more brilliant than we can be. And we have to work a lot harder to access what we can so far. So when you take those shackles off, my feeling is it's going to change everything in terms of being able to blow past those distortion patterns that really, they're still there. And like I said, they're lesser. Yeah. But they're still there. And we start truly to experience the limitless, not just in our meditations, when we have an expansive meditation. It starts to happen more, and it starts to permeate your everydayness. It starts to be like your lived experience more. And it's not just someone like me, who does it. It's more and more of us, and we're all doing it at different levels. We're all expressing it in different ways. Your experience is there to help you to grow. But that really starts to shift in the embodiment. And I actually believe it's going to shift how we age. It's going to shift what we can do with our manifestation. Because I feel like we kind of have it, but I'm like, we just keep hitting a bit of this wall. Like it takes too long. It's not as clear sometimes. It's just like, I've noticed that. I'm like, what what is it? And then the other thing that it will change is our relationship to fear. That's my feeling.
Yeah.
Because right now as humans, we believe that we're limited. We believe that there's scarcity. We believe that we're separate, that we're disconnected, that we're finite. We really believe it. It's like part of the illusion. And it's part of those chromosomes being frozen, like joined or whatever the hell it is, like combined together in not a good way. It keeps you really in the limited. But what happens if that's not there? Your relationship to fear must change because you recognize more viscerally your limitlessness, right? The reason we have fear is because we believe that there's scarcity. We believe there's a limitedness, right? Like if you didn't believe there was limitedness, you really wouldn't have fear.
Yeah.
Not to the same level. So the thing with humans is often, I don't know if you've noticed this, but we manifest out of fear. We're afraid something's going to happen to us. We're afraid something's going to be taken away. We're afraid we're not going to have enough. But what happens if fear changes and you start to create not from fear?
Yeah. Totally hear you. And I'm also thinking too, another part of that whole DNA thing that's being interlocked or subjugated, whatever word we want to use, is the lack of understanding, as you say, because of the fear that's so prevalent in our fields, the lack of understanding that we are infinite.
Exactly.
So, once that's gone and we have that understanding that we are this greater than this human body, like really get it.
Yeah.
Not an intellectual concept, that we feel it, that our DNA somehow that's unlocked starts to show us and represents a world that's completely different from the illusion that we're experiencing.
Yeah.
Then we understand that there really isn't a death.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes, because even that fear changes.
Yeah.
Yes, because we realize our infiniteness.
So we never lose.
Exactly.
We never are we know that there always is this thing that's always there available to us. I do wonder if that'll happen. I don't know if it'll happen, but I do wonder.
I really viscerally believe it because we have such an ingrained fear of death.
Yeah.
It's so strong for us. And whether the death is a physical death, an ego death, the death of a relationship, the death of circumstances being a certain way, having enough, those are kind of like deaths, And so I totally agree with you because the thing is, even if you have this amazing meditation where you feel the expansion, whatever, when you come into your life and someone's freaking out because it's a client who says they need this and this, and they're potentially going to leave, you go into fear again. But what if you really knew that you were limitless?
Yeah.
Would you make a different decision? Of course you would.
Right.
How you approached it, how you felt, what your resonance was, all of that would change.
All your needs would change.
Exactly.
Like you really wouldn't feel that you needed anything other than to be present and to connect with another human being at a level that's never been experienced before. I can only imagine it.
Yes.
But I'm trying to put myself in that position where there's no fear of anything. I'm not scared of dying. I'm not scared of my kids dying because I know that there is no death.
Right.
Right? I'm in that place that there's only this infinite, indestructible consciousness.
Yeah.
And I now have that DNA active to be able to feel that in my cells and in my body and in my connections with another human being. Because I'm imagining too, if you and I sit together and we've both got that activated DNA now, we're experiencing the world in a whole new level.
Yeah.
Beyond what our brains, because we're only using 80% of it. That's another question. When the DNA gets active, do we start using the brain in a different way?
Yeah.
Then do we manifest in a different way?
Yeah.
And if you can manifest quicker and in a different way, you're never going to need it again.
Yeah.
So now all you have to do is just grow.
Yeah.
Right?
But this is what I've been talking, I've been banging on about this, as you would say, for years, where I'm like, we are approaching a period where we are going to start to embody the possibility truly of consciousness having a human experience, not from an intellectual, I really wish that would happen. It's a cute bumper sticker, but like freaking for real.
And not academic. There's so many people who've read the books and they theorize about it. And I'm like, I don't think our minds can understand it right now.
No.
No. I mean, it's just, it's not plausible for us right now. It seems to be this academic theory. And I'm truly excited by the fact that the DNA might actually make this become real.
Yes. And so that's part of the excitement of this year, is that this is the opportunity to start to repair. When we repair this at the DNA level, like you said, our lived experience shifts radically because the perspective that you have as a human changes radically.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, just think about it. You've gone from like fear and limitedness and scarcity into infiniteness and expansion and possibility.
Yeah.
That's a radically different experience and perspective of life. And so that's in part why the excitement is so great for this year. It's like we've been waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for this time. And it's so fascinating to me because, you know, the Indigo kids, you know, the ones that have been talked about since, you know, the late 90s, they're now in their late 20s.
Yeah.
And it's time, man. And they are here to really, and not just them, but, you know, other new consciousness kids are helping for humanity to rise into this possibility, because they were one of the first ones before even you, like say you and I were aware of it. They were like, this doesn't make sense. Like the way the world works is kind of messed up.
Well, do you remember the experiments that they held in China where they grabbed all these kids, the Indigo kids, from all over the world? It wasn't, you know, just Chinese kids, but the Chinese at that time were really interested in this superpower that these kids had. And the superpower was they could move objects without using their hands or any other equipment.
And they were blindfolded.
And they were blindfolded by their mind. Well, not really even their mind, because what they realized when they asked the kids, how did you move that ball from that cap sitting on the table across the room to that cap on the other side of the table, you know, on the other side of the room? And they kind of looked at these adults like, well, you just feel it.
Yeah.
And of course the adults couldn't figure this out. And they tried everything to prove them wrong. Each time they did it. Boom, boom, boom. Easy. Yeah. Can you imagine how it must be for them? They're kids in this world, like, hello, people.
Yeah, I know.
Do we suspect that their DNA was activated or more activated? I mean, you know, another question, why? Why did they do that to our DNA? You know, what was that? Because I'm sure people watching this are like, who would do that? And why? You know?
Yeah. If you're watching this and you've been doing frequency work for a while, I would recommend that you hold your space, because this could put you into fear. And my purpose is never to put you into fear. It's to empower you. Okay? So I'm going to talk about something dark. And the reason that this happened was to enslave us, really to subjugate us so that we couldn't really reach our potential in terms of remembering who we truly are as these infinite beings. And there's a very specific race of beings that is very interested in power for themselves and in controlling other beings in order for themselves to have more power.
I also believe it's something to do with the soul.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
They wanted the soul.
So, yes. So you have to remember that your physicalness, whilst interesting in a very obsessive way for us as humans, is not that interesting, right? I mean, it's finite. I mean, your body's going to die. I mean, I don't think this is a new flash, right? Your body's going to die. And then that's it. But if you can control beings that are infinite, that have forgotten their power to co-create, and you can actually appropriate that infiniteness and use it for yourself, that's a tremendous amount of power.
Yeah.
And it actually completely violates a whole bunch of universal laws. But that is what happened in order for them to have more power. So I'm saying them very deliberately because I don't necessarily need to give that power, and I don't need to necessarily play into more fear, and I don't need to necessarily amplify fear for them, because I do that a lot in order to subjugate us in all kinds of media.
Yeah, they love fear.
They love fear.
So don't give them it.
Exactly. And I'm just saying, why do they love fear? Because like you and I have talked about many times, fear just drops your frequency resonance. And when your frequency resonance is low, what happens? It's easy to control you more, right? And what it is that you want to create and what you manifest, because what happens? Now you're manifesting in fear. Remember that thing we talked about at the very beginning?
Yeah.
Right. So they can appropriate that. So the thing is, it is something that was done to humans because we were in the veil, we dropped through the veil of forgetting. We'd forgotten who we truly were. And they took advantage of that forgetting in a way that was basically a violation of a lot of universal laws. Yeah. And so it is our time now as humanity, if you want to. No one's making you, right? Like if you don't want to do it, no one's going to make you ascend. No one can really. You have to choose it.
Yeah.
So if you want to ascend in this time and to rise in your frequency resonance, it's really pivotal at this time to do the work, to do frequency work, to release the distortion so that you can be free of fear. And that's why the work we're giving now at Spherical Luminosity is so pivotal, right? And I'm not suggesting Spherical Luminosity is the only one doing this. Of course not.
Yeah.
You know, there are many other ways of doing it. I mean, you know, Pam Gregory is talking about different things. I mean, there's all different kinds of modalities, right? I mean, there's never one way to the same thing. But my point is, this year, whether it's the San Miguel retreat, whether it's the one we're giving in Portland in the summer, whether it is the retreat we're giving in Egypt, those retreats are pivotal for all of us, because not only are we there as participants to shift things for us, we shift things for the all, because we are one. I know that is hard for people to understand, because they're just like, okay, well, I'm doing my thing and whatever. But when you shift, you change in your resonance, which has a ripple effect out into the field and creates the possibility that is much, much greater for others to do the same. So your choice is important. Your choices this year are important in terms of what amount of fear you let in, what amount of fear you don't, what it is you do to empower yourself, what it is that you don't. All those things make a difference, especially right now where we're in this possibility in time where we can ascend in our bodies. Finally, we've been waiting for this time for so long, and now it's here.
Yeah. Okay, now I would like to, you mentioned Egypt.
Yeah.
I'd like to come back to it, not only because, you know, doing a trip like that is amazing.
Yeah.
But I also feel like at some point in our time, in our history, that is where that corruption occurred.
Exactly.
And I feel that, I think we've discussed this, that part of that trip, I might not say it the way you would say it, but part of that trip is about reclaiming
Yes, absolutely.
Is that right?
Yeah. So Egypt is, to me, the culmination of the work that we're going to be doing this year. Okay.
Yeah.
And it is the, like you said, physically the place where that corruption happened, where there is a lot of frequency resonance of that race that has subjugated humanity for so long, is in that space. And part of what we're doing is restoring, reclaiming, being like, no, enough. This cannot happen anymore. And my feeling is, and we haven't done it yet, so I don't know, that it is for us in our physical bodies to be there and be like, you don't get to imprison me in this way that I cannot see, that I can't free myself from, that I struggle with the fear that keeps me bound. Finally, I choose to be free, and we will have the momentum to do that.
Yeah. That sounds awesome.
Okay.
I just want to clarify a little bit. When you say that race, we're not talking about the Egyptians that are there right
No.
now.
Sorry. I meant the non-human race that has
the pre-Egypt people that are there now.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Just to be really clear. Yeah.
That sounds powerful, and I mean that's exciting as well, because the work leading up to it, of course, is also going to gain momentum, right? If this is the year that we're hoping it is, it's just going to gain momentum as we get closer to that.
Yes,
right?
exactly. And the thing is, by the way, you're not just freeing, like you said, yourself. You said for your children. Exactly. For your children, for their children, for all humans everywhere, you know? So I feel like this is a really important time.
And for the way I understand it, it's not even just the human race.
No.
It's the other beings and star beings that are being held because of us kind of holding it all up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're all one. So, of course, what we experience impacts everything.
And they're also saying that this is the year where there will be lots more star beings making themselves visible to us, because they are waiting for us and they're tired of waiting.
Exactly. Yeah, and I would say that, you know, that I would agree with that. It's funny because when we were doing our Peru retreat 2 years ago, they started to appear to some of the retreat participants. Like people would actually start to see them.
That's right.
And they have been increasing in terms of their what people are aware of them. You know, for example, in Scotland. This is just in our community, right?
Just
Our people,
in our little community.
and people who are doing our retreats. Like people would say literally they felt really tall beings like walking by them. And these are people who are like, I don't see anything.
Yep.
I don't hear anything. I don't expect anything. I came because my wife dragged me, you know, or whatever it was. And they're like, they actually were a little bit, didn't know what to do with it in a way. And so you're right. As our resonance rises, as we start to be able to access these higher levels of consciousness, because our DNA is shifting, our ability to have connection with, communication with higher level beings also increases.
That can only be good.
Yeah. To discover more about why this is such a pivotal time from a greater perspective, and what the special opportunities during a time that can feel really dark, polarized, and intense, check out my next video, which is all about how to be ready for these pivotal times. I'll see you inside.